what should we know about MKUltra?
All right. So in 1951, Allen Dulles, the director of the CIA, who I'll say was born with a club foot, because I think that's interesting, because he hired a chemist within the CIA by the name of Sidney Gottlieb, who was also born with a club foot, to design a weapon, a bioweapon, to control the minds of people, to create super soldiers, perhaps Manchurian candidates, to erase your mind, to brainwash. And from there, about 2 years later, Gottlieb being a Jewish man, hired a Nazi that our government hired after World War II was over through Operation Paperclip, Kurt Blome, who was a biowarfare specialist for Nazi Germany. And those two conspired to create the mind control bioweapons, truth serum, and LSD. Which is, they went to Eli Lilly, the pharmaceutical company, and Eli Lilly made all of their LSD.
It seems like it kind of branched out. It kind of went underground, and I want you to tell me about that. But more importantly, that how did these people? This is the part that I'm struggling with today's world. And so it's what jumped out at me with this story. How did these people convince themselves that this was an okay thing or a good thing to do? I mean, so clearly the part where they were dropping LSD in their peers' coffee, and one of the guys killed himself. And that's when they went, maybe maybe we're not doing such good work here. Or maybe there's a problem with what we're doing. But that the group think, it just, I can't get my head around it.
Well, I would say that fear is the first weapon to control someone's mind. And we're talking about the Cold War. So a lot of these guys like Dulles, Gottlieb, and now Kurt Blome, and George White, all these people within the CIA, Jolly West, they need to defeat the Soviets. They are afraid that the Soviets have designed a weapon that can brainwash people or could create Manchurian candidates, because we had POWs return that were all of a sudden like spewing pro-communist stuff, which then led to Gottlieb doing what they did. I think they were cold-blooded. I don't think they cared. I think they said this is for the best interest of national security, and they'll do what they have to do. If you look back at the things that survived, when Richard Helms, the CIA director, and I think 73 destroyed a lot of these MKUltra documents, the stuff did survive that we saw during the Church Committee a few years later. And you see that these people were cold-blooded. They thought they were doing what was right. They planned assassinations. They dosed their colleagues. You mentioned the one who committed suicide. That's even up for grabs. You don't really know. That's Frank Olson, the first, as far as we know, death from the MKUltra. Gottlieb gave him the acid. And after a psychotic break, he leapt out of a window, or he fell out of a window, or he pushed out of a window. We really don't know. But Gottlieb went to Frank Olson's family and said he either jumped or fell out of a window, which didn't make any sense to the family until like 20 years later. They read about Sidney Gottlieb's obituary, and they're like, oh, he was a dark sorcerer, referred to him as, who created mind control things. And that might have been what happened to their father and husband. Terrible stuff. I don't think they care. I think they wanted to do it. They enjoy doing it. And most of the government from back then to today, they see us as lab rats.
Let's take MKUltra around to the present day. How do you see those sorts of movements playing out right now?
Everybody's MKUltraing themselves. It's like MKUltra's wet dream. And that's
with the phone?
It's that. It's our food. It's the poison that we eat and drink. And I think it's all because it all started with about chemistry, what we put in our bodies. Just going back really quick to the 50s and 60s, they talk about psychic driving, putting people into comas. How can we make tabula rasa, a clean slate in our brains? So I believe over years, it never went underground. It just became mainstream, and people don't realize, all of us are susceptible to the mind control via the algorithm, which has been weaponized against us. I try to remind people, just be skeptical of anything that confirms any bias you have, because right now online, if any bias you have is confirmed, it sounds good, but they're trying to sell you on an idea, and you don't want to become a slave to that narrative. It might be true, but just do your due diligence, especially if you care, if you're a political junkie like myself.